You have to imagine that success and all good things in this life, everything you've ever even thought to desire, is on this like inevitable collision, like crash course towards you. Like everything good for you, that's meant for you, that you want in this life, it's inescapable. It's rushing towards you. It's already crashed into you. It's like, I saw this thing recently, and someone talking about manifestation and timelines and blah, 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 right? But they were talking about this example of when you're watching a movie, the movie's ending doesn't change just because you don't know what's going to happen yet, right? Which was a funny example to like hear. I don't even remember the context of this video anymore, but this idea that like the ending of the movie was set even when you press start. So you were just like watching it unfold. And as someone that loves to like guess what's going to happen at the end of a movie and often guesses right, that was very interesting. But you also have to think about it from like your own life perspective. You decide what that ending was, and you need to feel that it's extremely real, extremely inevitable. And then as you're moving through your day to day, it's almost like, yeah, the moments in between now and that thing you're visualizing for yourself, you have no idea what they're going to look like. And how is not really your problem, but you're seeing it moment to moment unfold, and that doesn't change the ending. And you need to be convinced that that ending is a good ending. Like this idea that like everything always works out for me, is what, if it's like a planted belief, like people talk a lot about, and even I do, right, on this podcast, the idea of limiting beliefs and really trying to uncover what's blocking you on the inside. If there's anything you can plant in your head, even if you don't uproot all the weeds, if there is a seed I can encourage you to plant in your head today, this idea that everything works out for you is such a powerful one, because it allows you to kind of like alchemize the negative energy of any moment to moment situation that isn't enjoyable, that isn't desirable, that feels like a letdown, that feels like a challenge or a disappointment, or, oh my gosh, like I'm thrown off course. But remember, you're thrown off course. You're not defeated. There's a difference. You're thrown off course. You're not defeated. Defeated is like you're done for. It's over with. Thrown off course just means like, okay, shit, reroute, right? Like Google Maps, we're on our way. We're not going down the same street we thought we were going down. We're going to go down a different street, but we're going to get there. Okay, so you're not defeated. You're thrown off course. But the thing that allows you to feel that way is a firm belief that everything will work out for you. So going back to that idea of like the ending of a movie is established, the ending of your movie, decide what it is and then be relentless towards it. It also reminds me of this quote. I'm not going to quote it perfectly, but basically this idea that like the only way to fail is to die. Like if you decide that you're never going to quit, then the only way to truly be stopped is to die. As long as you're still here, still breathing, you can still get there. Like you can still get what you want in some capacity or be fulfilled or whatever that goal is, right? As long as you are still alive and kicking, you live to fight another day. And if you don't quit, then success is inevitable. It's just a matter of when. A matter of how. Cool, it's a surprise, you'll see. But if you decide that there's no giving up, I'm just going to reroute, there's no defeating me, there's no failure, there's no, oh, this is it for me. You can only reroute, but you will get there. Because again, success is something that is inevitable for you. It's on this like set course. It's on its way to you. And when you also kind of like feel that way and embody it, you start to kind of become a magnet. Like again, because you're speaking it over your own life, you're speaking it into existence, you're kind of having that thought pattern at all times, responding to the world around you in that specific way, right? But you then almost become this like energetic magnet to these things because of that very same belief system, to where things do just kind of, they're just drawn to you. You enter spaces, the people you happen to interact with happen to be exactly who you should interact with. Like when I even reflect on friendships that I've made with people and like the odds of me just never actually having interacted with that person or never having met those people, and then they end up being people who are so like special and central to my life. And it's like, there were so many other ways like things could have happened. There's so many ways we could have missed each other. But again, it was inevitable, like our friendship, our connection or whatever, it was inevitable. So it had to happen, and it had to happen that specific way at that specific time. But of course, I wouldn't have known that when I woke up that morning that I was going to gain a lifelong friend, or I was going to make or establish some kind of like, deeply meaningful relationship with someone. There was no way for me to know that at the beginning, but that doesn't change the ending that, again, it always works out for me. So it was destined. And I think the funny thing about anything I'm saying in this episode is like, you can choose not to believe me, but also like, you're the one, like, not believing me also just means that you get to live in a world. Right? Positive framing, but yeah, you get to live in a world where what I'm saying isn't true. And again, that's your world and your problem, right? But it's like, fine, you have decided that in the laws of your universe, that's not how things work. You have to be realistic. You have to be looking for all of these like pessimistic views, look at the risk. The thing is, you can think about all of those things. You think I don't consider every little angle for, certain issues and the pros and cons and the whatever. I'm a very deeply logical person. Surprisingly, from how sometimes it sounds like I talk about things. But even as I tell you these things, I'm not just speaking from like some inner conviction. Like science will tell you this, like cognitive behavioral therapy will tell you this, like spiritual teachings will tell you this, like neuroscience will tell you this. Like there are so many angles to look at these topics from, but ultimately, like, it's up to you to decide. So if I'm speaking and you're rejecting the things that I'm saying, and the thing is, you might be rejecting it and you're like not trying to reject it. That's just your instinct, is to be like, she's full of shit, You should probably go back and revisit why that was your immediate feeling. Because again, that just means in your world, I'm full of shit, sure. But then like your world is like kind of shitty. Like I'm full of shit, sure. Like I'm delusional, whatever it is. But in your world, like delusion, whimsy, self-belief, confidence, drive, living life with no inhibitions, being, relentless towards your goals, ambition, hard work, like ethic, commitment, frankly, to see it through, commitment to the bit, commitment to say like, I want this, I'm going to get it. Those things don't exist in your world. I'm full of shit. And it's like, I'd rather live in my world where those things do exist, even if I sound delusional. Because like, sure, in my world, I'm delusional and I'm also right because I believe so deeply in my delusion. Like it's only fueling me in a good direction. So like, I'd rather, go that direction, because it's like, I saw this thing today too, where this girl was saying how like people are always asking her what her plan B is because she wants to be an artist and she's like a painter, and people are always asking her what her plan B is because obviously they think that like she's not going to have a viable life in whatever capacity, blah, 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 if she's a full-time artist. But it's like her even allowing herself to have a plan B means that you are also banking on the possibility that this doesn't work out for you. And so she was basically saying how like she'd rather commit to plan A and understand that she's going to keep going until plan A works. And again, that's that whole mindset of I'm going to reroute. And you can be realistic within the plan A of being an artist, of like pursuing all the different angles to be an artist, a commercial artist, a graphic artist, making prints, going to museums, doing gallerist things, making money en masse, or like appealing to the general public, or making money from positioning and marketing yourself as this like, very exclusive, in the know artist, which I don't even know how people do that. But you know what I mean? Like you can pursue it from so many different angles. You can be an art teacher, like you can be in the art world from so many different viable angles. But if you say, I'm going to be an artist, boom, and commit to that, then fine, that's the path. But the second you say, oh, well, okay, let me go get a degree in something I don't give a shit about, blah, blah, blah. Like, sure, but it's like you're also now splitting your mind towards the possibility of failure and the thing that you truly want, when really you could focus, even from a risk mitigation perspective, only on the ideal world you want to live in, which is the world where she's an artist, right? So, yeah, you kind of decide the laws of your own universe. It's like very interesting even because I think about something I talk a lot about is this idea that I think I would say one of the most powerful systemic or most powerful tools as it relates to like systemic racism in America that's like uniquely American, like US of A, is the fact that it's not just what you experience on a day-to-day basis. It's the fact that they literally plant a racist white man in the head of Black people. Like they literally plant, not even a racist white man in particular, but like they literally plant someone in your head. Like the propaganda, the media, like the propagation of the idea that you are limited to certain domains, that you can only see success as an entertainer, that, you know, as an entertainer in some capacity, whether from a sports capacity or from a, you know, creative capacity with the arts. And even then that's limited to like rap in certain genres or whatever it is. But like you are so boxed into a narrative, which they do that a lot in America. They love to label basically everything and everyone and like over pathologize everything. I feel like that's part of that's a whole other thing. But I think one of the most powerful tools of one of, like I said, I'm not undermining all of the other very real systemic things that are going on in that, you know, interesting nation. However, I do think something critical that leads to this like perpetuated like downfall or negative experience of Black Americans is the fact that they put the racism in your own head. You limit yourself before anyone else does. Like you tell yourself what's possible for you, and then you live within your own box. And if you step outside of it, people will shame you. Like, oh, why do you talk like that? Why do you act like that? I'm more Black than you, blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, that's if you're around, you know, white people in the suburbs. Like people are so committed to the box that it's like you step outside of the box, you might, almost like crabs in a bucket, other crabs in the bucket trying to escape will drag you back down into the bucket for trying to imagine more for yourself. And I think that's one of the most, like that's the sharpest weapon in the toolbox, or one of the most sharp weapons in the toolbox when it comes to systemic racism. And when I think about part of what led me to that conclusion too is that I'm Nigerian. I've seen Nigerians all over the world, and you'll even see it in like Nigerian authors writing stories or collections of short stories. And there's this, I think part of it due to the fact that there's no kind of fallback here. Like there's no, not like there's no government, but there's no fallback, right? So it's like if things go wrong, like it's on the community and it's on you. So people just have to make it, or like it's really do or die. And so when you take the Nigerian culture to any other place, I feel like the best word for it is just like resilience. So Nigerians and African Americans are all in America. And I won't claim to say that all of, like, I have perfect substantiated statistics for this, but I will say that even like looking at the Harvard population, like most of the Black population was Nigerian, and it actually was a source of frustration for like other non-Nigerian people on campus sometimes. But it's like you'll have like Nigerian Americans versus like African Americans, and I don't say versus to cause like a diaspora war, I'm just making an observation. But it's like part of the issue, like part of it too, is you'll see, and even stepping outside of America, so again, it doesn't become a diaspora war. Nigerians in any context, they're Black still, but it's not the same. It's not the same kind of Black. Of course, there's all types of ideas around Africans and their limitations too, and like that whole narrative that people push as well. But at the same time, it's like Nigerians are so resilient. They don't have that thing in their head telling them, oh, you're this kind of person, or you can only go this far. That is not the Nigerian mindset. The Nigerian mindset is like you take it all the way there. Like there's only there. You just get there somehow. Some way, somehow. There's no, oh, well, what about this? And, oh, but I only have this. There's no excuses. Like you just do it. Like it's do or die. That's like a very, if I was summarizing the culture and the mindset, and even when people leave Nigeria, that's just so, they're so resilient. Like they're like, I don't want to say something that's accidentally racial, but it's like, yeah, like that cockroach thing that like if there was a nuclear war and creatures that would survive, it's like a cockroach, because like You literally can't keep a Nigerian down. Like when people are like, oh, that country is super racist, like blah, blah, blah. There is a Nigerian in that country. I promise you, there's a Nigerian there, and they're either, you know, with their own Nigerian group or whatever community, or they're propagating like the whole world's going to be Nigerian in about 2 seconds. Just blink. Like if someone is black in a place where you're like, surely there's no black people here, they're Nigerian and they're thriving somehow, or they're making it somehow, you know? And it's really quite fascinating. But I think it's, again, it starts with the mind. Everything starts with the mind. And in a Nigerian's mind, there's no stopping a Nigerian. Like, and of course, like, I think also part of what causes that mental health split with Nigerian kids, especially in the States, is part of it too is like the difference in how you're being raised maybe by your parents versus what you're seeing out amongst you in these Western standards. And the clash, I think, genuinely breaks some Nigerian kids' brains. But again, like I said, that sharp tool of systemic racism, it's what they put in your mind. So even Nigerian kids that were there too long and they were too exposed maybe to other people or ideas that allowed that, again, that propagation to infiltrate. They put the racism in your own head. No one has to be racist to you before you decide something is a problem. Or not even decide something is a problem, but limit yourself from an outcome. But anyways, going back to why I kind of brought this up, it's like, it all starts with the mind. So it's like, even when you look at the idea of blackness and, oh, black means this, and putting it into a box, that box is something people jump right the fuck out of if they decide that I actually have nothing, that box has nothing to do with me. And so it's like this box that should be ascribed to this color group or whatever it is, suddenly some people have escaped, and it's like, how? Well, they don't believe in the box. So the limitation itself, again, not undermining the very real tools that are used and weaponized separately from the mind, right? But even your ability to be contained is set by your belief in the container. Like even your ability to think that there's a box you can't get out of, that there is a bucket that you're a crab in and you can't escape, is set by your belief, because it's all in your head. Once you decide there's a way out of this bucket, you can start working towards that solution. But you can't work towards something you don't believe exists. So if I believe everything I want in this life is mine already, and if I can't see it in my 3D, it's on its way to me. And it's not just on its way to me, it's like rushing towards me. Like it's in a hurry. Like it can't wait to get to me. Like it's doing everything it can to get through traffic right now and get to my doorstep. Like that's what's happening. Like that's, and you can't tell me otherwise. And again, I'm right. And you're going to see that I'm right. And maybe by the time you're listening to this, I'm very right. I'm like extremely right. And frankly, I'm already right. No matter what time you're listening to this, I'm right. That's the world I'm living in. Because that's the world I've defined for myself. And if anything shows up in my, again, immediate reality that seems to contradict that, it cannot contradict that because I know that it's true. So therefore, there must be another explanation. But again, I only consider the fact that there's another explanation or another thing to consider because I've decided what my truth is, what my vantage point is, which is the vantage point of this is my life, this is my world, this is what I get, this is what is, coming to me or is mine already, But once you say, oh, yeah, things don't work out or this doesn't work out or this is what happens to everyone or whatever, you aren't just like commiserating with everybody else. And of course it feels normal because everybody does it. But even that whatever it is, right? Even that act is you relenting. And once you accept that reality, then it's like, again, you've accepted your reality. That's your world now. It's real to you. And you've accepted it too. So you've accepted that now vantage point, which is much lower, of course, of defeat, right? So even thinking about things like gravity, we believe in gravity, at least on Earth, gravity is this or whatever it is. But people fly. Like I was saying with the crab in a bucket example, the only way you can start to try to escape the bucket is by believing there is a way to get out of this bucket, right? And the crab in the bucket is not maybe the best example because other people actively will drag you down. But at the end of the day, someone I'm sure can get out of it, okay? But the box. Part of your ability to get out of the box is believing you can. So this idea around gravity and people can't fly, human beings don't fly, that's for birds, blah, 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 blah. And yet there's planes, there's private jets, there's helicopters, there's fucking rocket ships, like, pardon my French. Like, people are flying, so how? Because someone said, in your world, people don't fly, but in mine they do. Like, sorry to tell you this, like in your world, people aren't in the sky and like doing stuff, but like in my world, they do. So yeah, I don't know how, but like we're gonna get there. And then they did because they believed. But for so long, I'm sure humans had the capacity to think it through. And they never bothered to because they're like, why should I think it through? Humans don't fly. Like I'm not going to test whether or not I would survive if I jumped out of, the 5th floor of a building. Because I believe that I would probably die if I did that, So I don't of course, this is not me encouraging you but you can jump out of, no, you shouldn't, please. You should not. But it's like, I'm going to restrict myself even from the possibility because I don't think that's something that makes sense and is a good idea to do. But at the same time, it's like, someone out there are people literally that jump off of cliffs. I think they call it base jumping. It's not a safe activity. That's the only reason I've even heard about it recently because of how unsafe it is. But there are people who do base jumping. There are people who do skydiving. There are people jumping from far scarier, taller heights than the 5th floor, the 4th floor, or the 3rd floor, the 6th floor, the penthouse of a building. There are people jumping from really tall heights. And they're aided with a parachute and whatever else they use to not die, paragliding and all those different, adventurous activities that frankly are none of my business, at least not in this phase of life. And it's, again, because they've decided, I do want to see what that's like actually. And they believe that it's something that makes sense to them. So they've aided themselves with the possibility of doing it effectively, or even bungee jumping, right? There's no parachute there. There are workarounds, so you can see what it's like to drop. But for me, there is no workaround. Like, even knowing those things exist, that's not my world. I'm not doing that. I'm not experiencing that drop. So I've conformed to that box. I've conformed to it. And frankly, I'm very comfortable inside of it. But again, that's within my control. And so I really encourage you to think about, what's your box? What is the invisible, visible, intentional, conscious, subconscious line that you draw around yourself and tell yourself you cannot escape? And what would it look like to tell yourself you can? What other things are you not even trying to do because you assumed you must stay within this box? Because I promise you there's somebody else out there, even with the probably worse constraints than you have, that made you believe you have to exist in this box. And that person made it out of the box. But the only way they made it out of the box was because they gave themselves permission to imagine the escape. They gave themselves permission to imagine what it's like to step outside of the line. Even if you right now, everything I said for most of this episode, you were like, I don't believe a word this girl is saying. That's okay to have that initial pushback, but it's like, even pause and think and open your mind to the possibility of what the other side is like, and then what it would look like to get there from even someone similar to your perspective. I really encourage people to, if you don't read, honestly, even at this point, you can get, I feel like, an AI summary of like anything. It's like unavoidable at points. Like, you can Google something and you'll get an AI summary before you can consent or not. But it's like, if you're not going to read it, like, look up memoirs and, learn about other people's life stories, because nobody's memoir starts from, everything was ultra incredible and it was always incredible and nothing ever happened to me ever. Like nobody who writes a memoir writes one like that with nothing in it, So there is a world where you have what you want. And in my world, I definitely have what I want. So I'm just encouraging you to do what you do with your world over there. Okay, whoever that is. Because I love that for you and I want to love that for you, but only if it's what you want, And if what you want is to be restrictive, like, for example, me, no interest in base jumping, base boarding, skydiving, any of it. Okay, but that's what I want. So what do you want? Right. Period. Okay. That's it for today. I kind of started cooking at some point there. Like, I mean, I was having fun the whole time, but I really cooked at some point there. I always have to go back and figure out what I said because I forget. But at some point I really snapped today. So I really hope write that down. Okay. Write that down. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening as always. And thanks for thinking out loud with me. My name is Obie and welcome to the podcast, I guess. Welcome to Live Lumani. I hope you'll stay a while, binge some other episodes, and I will see you guys next time. Oh, and follow the podcast, I think is the word, right? Follow it. Hit that follow button. I'll wait. Yeah, that's long enough. It doesn't take long, okay? Hit that follow button, follow the podcast, turn on that bell button. It turns on the notification so you see when I post, which is Wednesdays and Sundays, and I try my best not to forget. Sometimes I'm naughty and I don't literally schedule the episodes that I record. So oopsies, but I try not to forget and post twice a week. But I will see you guys next time. Love ya. Mwah.